In Ecuador, President Noboa will face impeachment proceedings after authorizing the invasion of the Mexican embassy. In Haiti, leaders announced an agreement to form a transitional government amid renewed criminal groups' violence. Palestinian resistance continues to study proposals reached in Cairo, but warned that Israel's position does not contribute to a fair solution. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The multiple crises unleashed by the President of Ecuador, Noboa, after authorizing the invasion of the Mexican embassy and the kidnapping of the former Vice President Jorge Glass opens the door to an impeachment trial against him. This was stated by economist Andres Arauz in an exclusive interview in which he explained that the Citizens' Revolution, the political organization that he leads, in addition to officially becoming the opposition, will push for a political trial against the head of state and several of his ministers. The decision of the Ecuadorian president has opened the doors to a political, institutional and international crisis unprecedented in the history of the country, which will be discussed on Tuesday in several regional instances. Also in Ecuador, former Vice President Jorge Glass is stable after being transferred to a military hospital due to health issues. Activists of Citizens' Revolution movement informed that Glass was transferred urgently to the military hospital of Guayaquil after his health deteriorated. The workers of the healthcare center said that Glass received first aid immediately. Sources close to the former Vice President stated that he is already stable, besides informing that Glass is back on La Roca. Meanwhile, the government of Ecuador recognized the persistence of an internal armed conflict just hours before the expiration of the state of emergency. On Sunday night, Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa issued a decree in which he acknowledged the persistence of the armed conflict. In such sense, he established several measures for the national police and the armed forces of the country. Noboa reiterated the military's continued participation in control activities. In this regard, the police will remain deployed to guarantee the neutralization of armed attacks with the objective of safeguarding security and well-being of citizens. Mexico will send the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres a report on the diplomatic crisis with Ecuador, aggravated by the cutting of formal ties. According to Mexican Foreign Affairs Secretary Alicia Bárcena, there is no justification for Ecuador's security forces to burst into the Mexican embassy in Quito, nor to physically assault diplomatic personnel and insult their dignity. This in reference to the events of the previous Saturday. The officials specified that the country's different diplomatic actions are currently advancing as a result of the incident, and authorities are drafting a lawsuit against Quito to present before the International Court of Justice for violations of international law. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, Venezuela presented arguments before the International Court of Justice to expose the truth and defend its historical position on the territorial controversy of Guayana Esequiba. Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, delivered before the ICJ a document and its copies with the historical truth and evidence that proved the delimitation of the borders and the title over the territory of Guayana Esequiba. The Venezuelan diplomat affirmed the only valid instrument is the Geneva Agreement of 1966 and also affirmed that the award of 1899 was a fraud to dispose Venezuela. The government also claims its historical right over the Essequibo territory and denounces to the world that aggressions against Venezuela are orchestrated from Guyana. In this context, Rodriguez also denounced that Guyana, together with ExxonMobil and the United States, have been trying since 2015 to mock the 1966 Geneva Agreement.
Venezuela without delay opposed this dangerous unlawful move by Guyana, driven by ExxonMobil since 2015 and backed by the government of the United States of America, that only aims to disregard and mock the obligations clearly established for the parties in the Geneva Agreement of 1966.
Furthermore, the Vice President affirmed that the 1966 Geneva Agreement regarding the territorial dispute is in effect and must be complied with by the parties in accordance with international law.
On February 17, 1966, Venezuela, the United Kingdom, and British Guyana, now the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, signed the Geneva Agreement with the purpose of putting an end to the territorial dispute through a practical, acceptable and mutually beneficial arrangement. This agreement is in force and is the legal framework that must be complied with in good faith by the parties in accordance with international.
In Haiti, amid renewed criminal groups' violence after a 72-hour pause, Haitian leaders announced an agreement to form a transitional government. The 9 members have until February 7, 2026 to accomplish a series of tasks. The first will be to replace the current Prime Minister, Henry, to appoint with the successor a governing council that will lead the country to democratic, free and credible elections. None of the members of this newly formed council will be able to run in these elections, which will be the first in the Caribbean country since 2016. On Sunday, the Caribbean community, CARICOM, gave its approval to the political agreement and its decree. Mexico held the first debate between presidential candidates. Among participants was Claudia Sheinbaum from Sigamos Haciendo Historia Officialism Party. This coalition was formed by the Labour parties Verde Ecologista and Morena. The country included Xochitl Galvez Ruiz for the opposition, Fuerza y Corazón for Mexico Coalition, and Jorge Alvarez Maínez for the Citizen Movement Party. Let's see some further data provided by our correspondent Asa Garcia.
Claudia Sheinbaum, the candidate of officialism, has got the floor to open the first presidential debate.
First of all, I would like to congratulate the diplomatic corps of Mexico to Ecuador. They've just returned, so I'd like to praise them for their courage.
Health, education, cracking down corruption and violence against women were the issues of the first debate among the 3 candidates.
Our project is to strengthen all, starting with prevention actions and even tackling the most complex assistance and care of any diseases, including the provision of free medicines. We've got the budget to make our project happen. Healthcare system has been destroyed, Claudia. You've got to accept it. People could have an electronic prescription with this card so that they could go to any pharmacy they want.
Therefore, we can't trust those who already let down Mexico.
Beyond proposals, attacks prevailed, particularly on the opposition candidate's side.
It's unbelievable, Claudia, that 19 children and 7 adults passed away due to your indolence. I insist you are a cold-hearted lady, Claudia.
It's good people know the actual Xochitl, who has been saying previous the debate that I was going to come to attack her, but as soon as she could she stroke a blow against someone she had begged lately to back her. That someone is Dante Delgado. But the new and the old has nothing to do with how old people are. We don't disqualify people due to their age. Hence, it's weird her attack on Dante. You have never seen Dante with Lamborghinis as you have seen Xochitl's best friend.
Second lie of Prian's candidate, we just have to see her heritage statements at the Senate of the Republic, which are totally contradictory. Even one of her companies are not mentioned at the heritage statements.
Candidate Claudia Sheinbaum referred that Prian's candidate Xochitl Galvez told nothing but lies, and that among the 3 candidates, she is the only one with outcomes. So far, polls keep Sheinbaum as the leading candidate, leverage that doubles the voting intention of Galvez, who appears as second favorite.
Asa Garcia, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. Palestinian resistance assured on Tuesday that they continue to study the proposals reached in Egypt, but warned that Israel's position does not contribute to a fair solution. Hamas has thanked the parties for facilitating dialogues. However, it assures that Israel's stubborn stance hinders significant progress. They are currently analyzing the latest document produced in Cairo. The organization has requested as part of these negotiations a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, that Palestinians be allowed to return to their homes in the north of the Strip, and that Zionist troops withdraw completely, in addition to the exchange of detainees and abductees and the delivery of sufficient food aid. Palestinians are still worried about the current situation, which is not improving. A possible new incursion of the Israeli troops, the lack of food and humanitarian aid keeps civilians in check. More details with our correspondent, Noura Hassin.
Palestinians here in Gaza enters their 7th month in this Israeli offensive, and nothing changed here on the ground in Gaza. A great statement from the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, who attacked the actions by the International Justice Court, saying that it is an genocide here in Gaza. It is not a war. Also talking about more than 80% of the homes that were destroyed in Gaza, talking about the more than 33,000 people who were killed in Gaza, and nothing has changed on the ground here in Gaza. And actually, even though the ICG ordered the full opening of the borders and the more aid to be allowed in Gaza, however, it is actually getting worse. Less aid is entering the Gaza Strip. At the same time, more civilians are getting killed here in Gaza, even though the court ordered Israel to be more careful not to kill civilians in this war on Gaza. However, more civilians are being killed, especially after the killing of 7 aid workers from the World Central Kitchen. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, more than 33,000 people were killed here in Gaza since the 7th of October. 72% of them are women and children. Talking about the situation here in Rafah, Palestinians are very much fearing an Israeli land invasion in this very small city. They're asking one very important question: where will we evacuate, especially after Israel withdrew from the city of Khan Yunis? Many residents of Khan Yunis went back there to find whole neighborhoods that were totally destroyed. So it is impossible of those people who evacuated from Khan Yunis to go back to Khan Yunis. It is impossible from the people who evacuated from northern Gaza to go back to northern Gaza, because the northern Gaza is isolated from the other parts of Gaza. So where will those Palestinians who evacuated their homes go when Israel land invade Rafah? Noboa, teleSUR, Gaza.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced on Monday that there is already a date for the Israeli Defense Forces' entry into Rafah. Netanyahu reiterated that in order to achieve a complete victory over Hamas, it's imperative to carry out the military operation in the Palestinian city south of the Gaza Strip. Politicians stressed that they have been working all along to achieve their goals, and maintains that he received a detailed update on the negotiations in Cairo, and the release of the kidnapped hostages remains one of the priorities. Despite multiple international appeals not to attack Rafah, where more than 1 million displaced people have taken refuge, Netanyahu has shown his determination to continue his bloody offensive. In Palestine, at least 32 civilians have been killed and 47 others injured as a result of Israeli attacks over the past hours. According to medical sources, the troops carried out a series of airstrikes and artillery shelling that targeted areas in the center and south of the Gaza Strip on the 185th day of the Israeli aggression. Aeroplanes attacked residential areas in and around Rafah city, as well as refugee camps. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health, over 33,200 Palestinians have been killed by Israel since October 2023, and at least 75,933 have been injured by the persistent bombings. In Israel, thousands of citizens gathered in protest to demand new agreements with Palestine, including the release of hostages in Gaza. Demonstrators crowded in front of the Israeli parliament, where they expressed their dissatisfaction with the decisions of the executive regarding the conflict. They also demanded the government increase its efforts to guarantee the release of prisoners, despite the conflicts with neighboring Palestine. At the same time, different organizations and nations have spoken up to urge a cessation of hostilities by Israel against the Gaza Strip. On Sunday, the Israeli Zionist army carried out new bombardments that caused damages of high magnitude in cities and villages in southern Lebanon. The attacks hit areas of cities such as Deir Kanun, Hanata, Tura, and Wadi Barga. In the last few months, more than 340 people were killed by Israeli attacks in Lebanon. As a consequence of the constant bombardment, many Lebanese border neighborhoods are now reduced to rubble and their communities are displaced. The Lebanese resistance movement, Hezbollah, affirms that it will continue its military operations against Israel until it puts an end to the genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza. We have a fun short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Fun short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Thursday, Chinese President Xi Jinping held a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Beijing. The head of the Russian diplomacy on an official visit since Monday assured that Russian-Chinese relations of comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation have reached an unprecedented level. The measures could be seen as a resounding response to the threats of the United States, which intends to regulate the relations between Moscow and Beijing. In the same line, in a previous meeting with the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, both diplomats ratified that any discussion on Ukraine that includes Russia lacks perspective. In Russia, authorities in two Imen province have declared a state of emergency due to heavy rains in the region. The Imen authorities assured this measure was taken to reduce the risk in case of landslides or floods due to river floodings. The state of emergency gives operational services more means to protect the population and the territory. The team formed to face emergencies in the province includes more than 12,000 people, 2,600 equipment, and about 200 boats. The Russian Emergency Ministry has warned about a new breach in the dam on the Ural River in the town of Orsk in the Orenburg Oblast. The agency said the breach occurred near the village of Lesotor-Govy, increasing the danger of flooding in other areas of Orsk. The authorities also noted that the rising water is affecting houses near the dam area. In Mozambique, authorities reported a total of 100 people dead following the sinking of a boat carrying over 130 people off the coast of the northern province of Nampula. Authorities said that the fishing boat was traveling between the town of Lunga and the island of Mozambique when it capsized after being hit by a wave. Nampula State Secretary Jaime Neto informed that the boat sank because it was overcrowded and could not carry that amount of passengers. He also said that the victims were trying to escape from the area due to the panic caused by misinformation about a cholera outbreak. For the time being, the search for several missing people continues. Volunteers prepare traditional pastries called ka'ak in Rafah in the southern Gaza Strip ahead of Eid al-Fitr celebrations, which come at the end of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The three-day festival celebrates the completion of the fasting month of Ramadan by Muslims across the world. As a new moon was not sighted on Monday evening after Maghrib prayers, Muslims in Saudi Arabia and neighboring countries will fast one more day, completing 30 days of Ramadan. The first day of Eid will be then celebrated on Wednesday, April 10th. The first day of Eid al-Fitr is determined by the sighting of the crescent moon, marking the start of the month of Shawwal, the 10th month of the Islamic calendar.
We managed to launch this project out of nothing. Access to resources is very difficult, but with our efforts and initiators, we try to obtain the food stuff as much as possible.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.